Hello, everyone. Welcome to session 4 of the Bebop Rewatch podcast from Wulong Talks. My name is Jason. I'm the host of the show, as you know, and I'm joined, as always, by my buddy Rich Kid, aka the Rustling Kid. Rich, say what's up.
What's up? What's up?
Cool, man. And thanks for coming along and welcome to the show. If it's the first time you're joining us for a Bebop Rewatch episode, what we do here is we rewatch episode by episode the greatest anime TV series ever made, TM, as far as we're concerned, Cowboy Bebop. For those of you unfamiliar with Cowboy Bebop, I would suggest you go back and listen to the first episode of the Bebop Rewatch, which is available on whichever podcast channel you found this on. You can definitely check out, as said, the preamble, because that really does explain a little bit about what we do with this particular show and why we love Cowboy Bebop so much. But yeah, for those of you who've been following us for a while, you already know all of that. And the only thing you want to talk about is session number 4, which we'll be talking about today. It's called Gateway Shuffle. And it's a pretty interesting episode. It's quite a lightweight episode, I thought. Quite kind of bright and breezy. There's nothing really too kind of meaty here. It kind of follows a theme from some of the earlier episodes where, with the early episodes, although there's kind of moments of levity as we've heard, in the previous episodes and as Richard has explained, there's some kind of heavier incidents and things that happen. Generally, they keep quite a light tone early on because you're still kind of at the stage of the story where they're just kind of introducing characters to us and sort of telling, these funny, quirky stories within the context of this world. So, I found this episode to be quite entertaining, as I said, quite lightweight, and it takes a kind of a humorous look at kind of how we deal with a very serious real world problem that we're facing right now, and certainly were facing back in 1995 when this episode first aired. But yeah, Rich, I mean, like in terms of the Gateway Shuffle, what did you think of this episode as a whole? Were you kind of happy with it, or did you think it was a bit too lightweight and too kind of inconsequential when compared to the rest of the story? What did you think of it?
It actually might be one of the most lightweight episodes, if I remember. I mean, like we've told the audience, I don't know, like we said, like Jason said, if there's any new listeners out there, we're doing it episode by episode. So we basically stayed away from watching the show, or and so we're trying to review the shows or the episodes almost as like newcomers, And when watching it, as much as I love every single episode of Cowboy Bebop, there are episodes that aren't needed. If I had, like I say, who do you love more, your mum or your dad? Like, you got to pick one. Yeah, this could be one of those episodes where I'd be like, well, you know what? It didn't really give me anything that that would make me say like, oh my god, like this show is amazing. It was just good. Everything else before it has kept me stuck on the show. So if I missed this episode, like let's say just by accident, it wouldn't have like had any form of impact on my views as a whole. I think it's just one of those ones that's, when they make TV shows and they've got things like you've got like the pilot episode that they show, and then if that does well, then they commission the show, and then they've got like a crossover episode. So just in case like the show's kind of lacking in ratings, they might cross it over with another show and stuff like that. And then they've just got like just a filler in episode. That's what this is. This is just a filler in episode to me. Like it doesn't. I mean, the only thing that it does show that's of any form of like, okay, let's play again, is when we see Jet talking to the ISS police officer who is his friend. And he might have a conversation with him in one of the first 2 episodes. Unless my mind is playing tricks on me. But that's the only thing that I'm just like, oh, okay, that's of some form of consequence. And it does try to give like a wider scheme of things of like everything in this universe. So now you've got like these eco-terrorists. So eco-terrorism is something that still exists. I mean, an eco-terrorist is, what you call someone depending which side of the fence you're standing on. But at the same time, like I said, to me, it's just a preliminary episode. Like I didn't miss anything. By not watching it, or I wouldn't miss anything by not watching it.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, said it. I mean, this one is a lot lighter. It doesn't really play into the wider narrative of the series too much, apart from the fact that it kind of brings us back to one of the characters we last saw in session 3. But we'll get into that now. So we'll talk a little bit about the episode. So for those of you who haven't watched it yet, obviously don't listen any further until you've watched the episode, because we're going to spoil it. So go watch the episode first, then listen to this episode, and then you'll get what we're talking about and where it's going from here. So the episode kind of starts with us almost immediately running into Faye Valentine, who we were first introduced to in session 3. We talked a bit about Faye and her kind of character and how she's represented, and kind of a little bit about her history and the few kind of things that she hints at. And at the start of this episode, we find her kind of immediately from the end of session 3, where she has escaped with the money that the crew from the Bebop had earned in the previous session. But her ship has run out of fuel, the Red Tail, and it's kind of left just sort of floating in space, basically. And she's clearly eaten through all of her rations, and looks to be struggling, basically, and has kind of resigned herself to, I guess, floating around in space until death takes her, or whatever it is. But then what she does happen is she encounters like the homing beacon of a wrecked ship that's found in space. And so she decides to go and take her little ship to go and investigate that. And we find out that she's just outside of a planet called Ganymede. Ganymede is a planet that looks a little bit like a kind of almost like a truck stop, like an American truck stop. So it looks kind of like a spaceport type of place, I guess, for this universe. And we find out that Jack and Spike are on this planet as well, and they're staking out a bounty that they're supposed to be tracking, a bounty of a guy called Morgan. They use like some technology to kind of realize that Morgan has done the same thing, and this is what I love about Cowboy Bebop is the callbacks. Morgan has done the same treatment that Hakeem Abdul had in session 2, and has changed his features. So because in this universe, listeners, that as you would have known by now, people have the ability to change their facial features via an operation that makes them look different. And so because they've this person has had this facial, I don't know what you call it, I guess facial surgery, to change their appearance, they now are able to kind of pass around in plain sight even when they're wanted. However, there is technology that can recognize people when they've done this, and Jet has something that he uses, or I think it might be Spike actually who has the goggles. I can't remember.
No, it's Jet. Jet had the goggles.
Jet, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. And then Jet kind of realizes that there's a percentage, like a 95% chance that it's Morgan, apparently. Whilst they're kind of scoping him out and getting ready to make their move to arrest him, at this same restaurant that they're at, where they were kind of spying on him, is the arrival of a group that are called the Space Warriors. And they're led by a woman that they all refer to as Mother. Now, before we started recording this episode, me and Rich were talking just about how creepy like Mother is. So Rich, Rich, I mean, how creepy is Mother, basically, I guess is what I'm asking you.
Well, the thing is, I mean, we've spoken about this before with but then it also comes into recent, like, so not to digress, not to digress from the situation of Bebop, but we've just had in the news, like in the space of like 24 hours or 48 hours, about Asia Argento having sexual relations with a guy who's now 22, but since he's been 17, but she's known him since he was 7. And I remember the first thing you said, Jay, was like, "What? That sounds like a grooming to me, mate." Like, and like I said, and that's the thing that we get with Mother. She just seems like this figurehead of this organization that only has men as members, referred to as Mother. Just talking about it makes my skin crawl. It just makes me think that there might be some form of underlying things that maybe a show like this wouldn't necessarily touch upon, just because none of the episodes touch upon it. But there's enough kind of clues to make you take a step back and go like, that looks fucking suspect. Like, So Mother just looks a bit like that. Mother may also be a girlfriend to some of these people, but not in a nice way, considering her age and considering. Yeah. I mean, if you don't listen, listeners, if you're not getting what I'm trying to get at right now, then that's your own fault. But I just think that she's not the nicest of people. She just seems really, really creepy, man.
She reminded me of. Do you remember that movie, The Witches, based on the Roald Dahl book?
I've read the book, but I've never seen the film.
Okay. The movie adaptation of The Witches is really good. And the main witch, I can't remember her name, but is played by Angelica Houston. And there was just something about like the way Mother kind of carries herself, the way she talks. She talks with a very kind of slow and deliberate, exaggerated accent. And she always kind of has this kind of evil smirk on her face. It's not even a smile, it's a smirk. She walks around with a smirk on her face. And yeah, it just reminded me of the Witches so much, man. Like when I saw that, I was like, oh, that kind of made my skin crawl, because the Witches was always a bit like, oh, the movie was a bit mad, and even the book itself is crazy as well. Listeners, I'm sure one of you must have read The Witches or knows that movie and could tell us the name. So if you can, please do. You'll find out how to holler at us on social media after the podcast. But yeah, that's what Mother reminds me of anyway. And plus the way she's dressed as well. She's all dressed in like kind of purple, floor length dress. She's got her hair done up in like a kind of very I guess sort of early 19th century style. It's all kind of done up in like a bun on the top of her head, and it just all feels a bit creepy, as said. Like very creepy. So anyway, she arrives at the restaurant with the Space Warriors. And the Space Warriors, as Rich said, are a group of eco-terrorists. And as in terms of the word terrorist, I mean, you can argue that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. But basically, the Space Warriors are eco warriors, and they believe that humanity is destroying, the solar system at a rate at which it destroyed planet Earth, and they want to put a stop to what they see as mankind's excesses, which as said, some people would probably agree with and say, that mankind is going too far. So the organization does that, and it does so in a very violent way. They're not the type to kind of protest and things like that. They will simply go out and take direct action against whoever it is or whatever it is that they feel is causing the problem. So they arrive at this restaurant as well, and it turns out that they are there to confront Morgan as well. When he demands a specific dish, so he decides that he wants sea rat or something like that, which is I never actually looked it up to see whether sea rats are a real animal or not. I don't know if they made it up for the show or if that's a real thing. I don't know if if it's real, Rich, or not.
Listen, sea rat, just that alone, I don't even know if it's real. All I need to know is they don't ever put it on my plate.
Well, the thing is, I mean, they are quite cute. I mean, the cartoon makes them look very cute, and and stuff like that. But as I said, I have no idea if they're real. They might well be real animals. I don't know. But anyway, Morgan, kind of attracts the attention of the Space Warriors because he orders this dish for an animal that it turns out the sea rat is kind of highly endangered, and there's like a quick montage explaining kind of how the sea rat has been hunted to the point of near extinction, and basically the Space Warriors view anybody who would order this kind of food a murderer, and the only way to kind of deal with murderers in their world is to execute them. So, once they overhear Morgan ordering this meal, it's like Mother kind of slowly turns and looks at him and basically condemns him for what he's ordered. He kind of basically tells her to take a run and jump. And so the Space Warriors pull out machine guns and then just start blasting the whole place. And it's nuts. Like it's crazy. The whole thing is just mad because they're filling this place with lead. Like bullets is flying everywhere. Like there's a whole heap of women with Morgan. They're all getting shot indiscriminately. At this point, like Jet and Spike die for cover because they're getting shot at as well. And the whole scene is just mad. And you know what it reminded me of a little bit? It reminded me a little bit of the scene from oh god, the movie's name's gone from my head. Scarface. When the Colombians send two people to go and kill Scarface at a nightclub when he's sitting at the table, and then these two guys with their machine guns and just start shooting the place up and start shooting dancers, everybody. They just start spraying everybody. That's kind of what that scene reminded me of. It was just like, it was that indiscriminateness of the way that they were just going around. Like, if you were too stupid to not get out of the way, then tough, you're dying as well. And that kind of ruthlessness was like, rah, okay, these guys might seem a little bit pathetic and stupid the way they're fawning over Mother, but boy, put a gun in their hand and they're murking everybody. So that scene was kind of mad. And Richard said it goes back to the thing you always say about Cowboy Bebop, that there's always that reminder that this is real and that things can turn dark in the blink of an eye. We get a very kind of somewhat humorous introduction to all of these characters, but within a moment things get dark and bloody and violent and people are dying. So yeah, I said it Rich made this point on previous episodes, and it definitely plays out here in the scene. So I think from here what happens is they realize that Mother, whose real name is Twinkle Maria Murdoch, is worth 25 million wulongs in bounty. I think it's Jet actually who remembers. And Spike is like, well, then listen, 25 million, like forget about Morgan. Morgan's dead, and he wasn't worth that much anyway. Like, Mother's worth way more. So Spike is like, well, we're taking her in, innit? So he goes to confront Mother, and he manages to stop them before they leave. And there's a bit of a standoff between him and Mother. I don't remember exactly what was said. Do you remember like what kind of the back and forth was like between the two of them?
What between Spike and Mother?
Yeah,
I can't remember exactly. All I know is that you kind of get the feeling that Spike isn't one who's too hot on terrorism. He's almost like he kind of looks down on her. Yeah, which is kind of weird because as viewers, like I said, we kind of know the show when you kind of find out some of the stuff. We don't even find out some of the stuff that Spike's done, but you just know that he's done some bad stuff in his past life. But in this, like he's just like, yeah, like I don't know. He's almost he literally just looks at her as just a number in order for him to get paid. Whereas like some people that he may chase or he may have chased. You get the thing of like, well, listen, you've done something bad. Like you're gonna have to pay. You're gonna have to pay for your crime. This person is like, I don't even respect you. You think you're saying that you're doing something in the name of good, for nature, whatever, but you're not. You're just a blatant terrorist. So I'm not even going to give you the time of day. I just remember that feeling and the look of this taste on his face when he's actually engaging with her, especially when later on in the few scenes where it kind of takes her a bit of a turn and she ends up leaving and going somewhere else where he has to stay, and Spike has to stay where he has to stay. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this one, yeah, there is a real kind of tension between the two of them, and Spike, as we've said before, he's a very melancholy kind of character, and he doesn't really have much time for anybody, frankly. Like whoever, there's very few people that he will come across along the story of Cowboy Bebop that affect him that deeply. He generally doesn't views somebody as either his next challenge or his next meal ticket, and that's basically all you are to him. But with Mother, yeah, it feels a little bit like she's kind of got under his skin there, that there's something about her and the way she kind of manages the organization and what the organization does that seems to bother him. But anyway, they managed to capture Mother. So they hold her at gunpoint, and the rest of the Space Warriors are forced to leave the restaurant without her. So they take her into custody, and they bring her back on the Bebop. And Jet looks up some details about the Space Warriors, and that's where you kind of get the montage explaining a bit about who they are and some of the kind of atrocities that they've carried out in the name of protecting the environment. And Jet also realizes that the bounty on her is basically invalid, because I think from what I remember, she has signed some kind of agreement with the government on Ganymede, whereby she was basically immune from prosecution, because, as it turns out, they've managed to steal this virus, which they're threatening to unleash on mankind. At this point, we don't know anything really about what the virus is, but we do get a shot in a short scene of the Space Warriors back on their vessel, and within the vessel you see these kind of containers that have got monkeys in them that are screaming really violently and banging against the glass, and they look really sort of distressed and stuff. And it does make you think, why are they keeping monkeys in that condition if these people say they're eco warriors? It doesn't really make sense, but as is always the case with Cowboy Bebop, all will be revealed in due course. So we get a little kind of foreshadowing as to what's to come. So anyway, the story kind of moves on from there, and we get a scene with Faye, who finds a guy up in space, on the ship that was stranded up in space that she'd stumbled across earlier from following the distress signal. And there's somebody alive in one of the life support pods, and he gives her this briefcase, and before he dies, he says to her, please get this to the ISSP, which is the International Space Police, as we've established in previous episodes. So she gives him the case. He gives her the case, and she's kind of deciding, what should I do? What should I do? In the end, her curiosity gets the better of her, and she opens it up, and she finds this kind of gold, almost like a triangle in there. And she has no clue what it is. And at this point, neither do we really. But that gold object holds a very, very important thing in it. So then we get a scene back on the Bebop where Jet receives a communication from Faye, and she tells them that she's out of fuel. Can they come pick her up? They kind of listen along and are like, oh yeah, I suppose there's no love lost there in it, because she stole their money, so they're just kind of like, listen, we don't need to do anything for this chick. What for? So they both kind of have a little laugh about it and share a joke, until they realize that she's actually on the Bebop already anyway. And oh, okay. So then we get the kind of mid-episode break, and then it starts again. And they've got Faye handcuffed to a ladder on the Bebop. this is quite a famous scene as well. You've probably seen, if you're a Bebop fan, or even if you're not, you may have come across the image of Faye Valentine with one hand kind of handcuffed behind her to a pole. For some reason, this image has become very, very iconic, and it's something that, as I said, you see a lot around on social media and on art groups and things like that. Because I think in that kind of image, it kind of encapsulates Faye's personality in a way, in that she can be very playful and very seductive, but underneath that there is kind of this steel, this kind of resolve behind her, that I guess a bloody mindedness and a kind of, you're not going to get the better of me. You may think you've got me locked down, but really I've got you locked down. And she loves to kind of play with people and toy with people in that way. And that's what she does to the guys for a couple of minutes while they're trying to work out what the hell to do with her. And then Spike is kind of digging through all of her belongings that she came on board with, and he finds the gold trinket. So Spike is trying to open the thing, and at this point now we've realized that because the story has progressed, that this gold thing that Faye has been given by the injured pilot is actually a capsule for holding this virus, the virus that they're threatening to release. And then you get this really funny animated scene where in a kind of really, really cartoonish way, while Jet is speaking to Faye and speaking to Mother, Spike is in the background kind of doing everything he can to open this thing. And he's literally I don't know if you remember it, Rich, but it's a bit like watching a Bugs Bunny cartoon character. He's like he puts it in his teeth, and he's trying to pull it out of his teeth. That doesn't work. He tries to shoot it, I think, at one point. That doesn't work. He tries to, he's banging it against different stuff in the background. And it's like what makes me laugh about it is it's that kind of typical man thing where we're kind of, because we don't always think logically when it comes to problems like this, we descend almost into kind of caveman, and it's like, you know what, this thing I must open thing, thing locked, must break thing, yes, break thing and thing will open, I beat thing, and it's just like that's kind of how we are. We kind of dissolve into that state when we're defeated by something so simple, and that's basically what Spike does. And as I said, the animators do a really good job with this, because it's just really funny to watch Spike kind of freaking out over how to open this thing whilst there's various different conversations and things going on in the background. So that's a really cool scene, listeners. So I would definitely check that out, man, because it's really funny. Anyway, Jet, I think, gets in contact with a buddy of his called Bob, who is now working for the ISP on Ganymede. Bob doesn't really want to give any details away about why the bounty has been cancelled, but Jet kind of blackmails him and is basically says, look, listen, I know you've been stealing drugs. Pardon me. I know you've been stealing drugs and things like that from the police. I will tell them what's happening if you don't tell me what's happening. So basically, Bob kind of explains the whole story at this point. So we find out that the virus that's contained in this gold object is actually called monkey business, and it affects the kind of the difference between humans and monkeys. So, brief science lesson, listeners. As all of you probably know, we share a certain amount of DNA with monkeys. And so what the virus does is it basically kicks that percentage of our DNA structure that is monkey into gear, and effectively it turns all humans who come into contact with it into monkeys. But it doesn't affect other plants and animals. So this is the eco-terrorist plan, basically, is to release this virus on Ganymede and turn the entire population of Ganymede into a planet of monkeys, to kind of redress the balance. So a very kind of Thanos thing before Thanos was a thing, So What did you think about like kind of the plot twist of that and the fact that they were turning people into monkeys? Because I was like expecting it to be some kind of virus that melts your eyeballs or boils your skin or something like that. So for it to turn out to be something that is like that turns people into monkeys, I was like, huh? Like it's almost so ridiculous that you don't even really know kind of how to take it. I mean, it was funny, but it just was, yeah, it would just seem so ridiculous to me. So I don't know. I mean, what did you think of that kind of plot twist there?
Well, the thing is like, I mean, that's kind of like how this episode is actually even kind of set up. Whereas like everything just seems so ridiculous, but then yet it can easily happen. Like there's just a lot of stuff that happens in this where you're just like, wait a minute, like if you read this on paper, you'd be like, is this really a true thing? Like for example, I mean, I completely forgot, but I'm actually going to Google if there is such a thing as sea rat. Like, you know, because on paper, it's just like what sea and a rat. Yeah, that really exists, and you find out it's got like a, you know, is a delicacy in China or something like that. So the thing that makes me laugh about this whole virus is that it to me it kind of links back to Spike trying to open the vial. Because basically, you slightly got it mixed up. He opens the vial by shooting it at the end, which to me is the most like animal thing. But as a thing, like you described Spike trying to open it as like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. The thing is, I remember watching an episode, and to me, it reminds me of like a monkey finding like something. Yeah. So it's almost kind of just like it's kind of ironic where you've got this virus that can actually change humans back into monkeys, and then you've got Spike with this thing. And like you said, like, you know, like Jason said, guys, like you need to watch the scene because this guy just starts doing anything and everything. And like I said, he ends up shooting the vial to open it. Anybody in the right mind would be like, oh, you know what, forget it. I'm never going to bother open it. He gets a gun and shoots and shoots a vial open. So when you find out what the virus is, it's kind of ironic, and it's like, yeah, we're kind of not that far off anyway, you know. And like basically, you look at the eco-terrorists that are underneath Mother, and they're kind of just monkeys following her around anyway. You know, you know what I mean. So the episode does have kind of like an underlining theme, depending on how deep you want to look. But yeah, like you said, like I was not expecting to hear that, like a virus that turns people into monkeys. I thought it was going to be like some space age version of the Ebola virus or something like that, man. That's what I was waiting for. So yeah, but then once again, like we said, it shows you just how the Bebop show can just flips things on its head. It can be like serious and like jerky at the same time, but then, you know, but not mess things up. It will still keep you engaged in the episode. So yeah, it's a wicked twist. I'll give it that.
Yeah, man, it was definitely something I didn't see coming. And yeah, you're right. He actually does shoot it to open it. Yeah, I just looked it up. So yeah, you're right though. The monkey, like that part of it didn't dawn on me until you said it, and now I'm picturing it in my head again, and I'm like, yeah, like of course it is. It's like, you know, when you watch documentaries about monkeys in the wild and you see them using you know, different tools to do different things, like you know, they take a heavy stick and they use it so they could crack the nut open and things like that. That's exactly what Spike did. He regressed into a monkey state and was just like, yeah, I need tool to open. Yes, I shoot and it opened. Yes, you know, like it was just mad. It was just proper mad, like really, really bizarre. But yeah, there you go, man. So anyway, in terms of the story, Spike, as Rich said, manages to get it open, and we now know what that is, a virus, and what the virus can do. Because there's no bounty on Mother, the crew kind of decide, well, there's no point in keeping her here anymore. So they do like a trade, and they let her go back to the Space Warriors. But just before she goes, Spike kind of slips the vial of virus into her pocket. But this is something that we don't see at that part of the story. Again, it's another really clever kind of twist in the storytelling of this episode. But what happens is she gets back to her ship, and she's negotiating with a politician from Ganymede. who is, passing a bill, or is being pushed by the Space Warriors to pass a bill that's going to protect sea rats, to stop them from being harvested and things like that. The person that she's negotiating with, the politician, is saying, look, I've got to pass this on to Congress, and they've got to debate it, and yada yada yada, how politics works. And obviously she's not happy with that, so she is deciding that she's going to use the full power of this virus against Ganymede as a demonstration, to say to them, look, don't test me. And then there's a guy within her group who, I can't remember what he did at the beginning of the episode, but he did something to annoy Mother. So anyway, the Space Warriors turn on this guy, and she orders them to lock him up in one of these tubes, and then they release the virus, and you get to see him change into a monkey. And the way it's done is really really cool, man. It's like a kind of like a body horror kind of thing. He just kind of, he's screaming the whole time, and it's like and he's his body's stretching and elongating and all of that. And then, as I said, he basically becomes a monkey. And it's really scary the way they've done it. So it's really, really kind of well done the way the animators have pulled that one off, because it looks really convincing as well. So anyway, the ISSP go out to kind of confront her, to stop her from releasing this virus into the environment. But what they find out to their cost is that she's actually released a decoy ship, and the decoy ship is rigged to explode, and it takes out the police. Then Mother, aka Twinkle Maria, gets on TV, and she gives out like a whole speech about how humanity is corrupt, and she's going to redress the balance. And how she's going to do that is by releasing this virus onto everybody. So they're getting ready to launch the virus, and basically, Spike and Jet are like, "Look, man, we can't let this happen." So they decide they're going to try and take her on and try and stop her. And then also, from launching the virus from the ship, they've actually invalidated the deal that the immunity deal that Mother had with the government. So her bounty comes into action again. So there's actually a financial reason why they need to go after her. So as I said, Spike and Jet are like, look, let's do it, man. Let's go after her. So, and then we get like what's actually quite a really cool action scene to end the episode with. Richie, I don't know if you want to talk them through the action scene.
So you're talking about the bit where they're flying through the ship, yeah?
Yeah.
You know, that's just awesome. Well, you know what it is? It's one of those things where it's like, where we've gone back and we're rewatching these episodes, is actually just remind, and I think I've said this before, like in one of the other sessions, it just reminds me that like the Swordfish 2, which is basically like Spike's ship, it plays quite a few major roles in getting him out of a bit of trouble when it comes to the space scenes. Like, it's almost one of those things where it's like it becomes synonymous with him, the same way how you might think of like Han Solo and and the Millennium Falcon or Captain Kirk and and the Enterprise, even though there's a crew of them. So it's like essentially you've got Jet. We all know that the Bebop itself belongs to Jet, and then we've got that the Swordfish 2 belongs to Spike. I can never remember the name of Faye's spaceship, but
the Red Tail.
Is that it's called the Red Tail, yeah. And it's almost like each thing, just the way they each all have their own individual look. So when it comes to things like like the space battles or the action scenes, which might contain a space battle, it's very very much is very easy to just basically like just know what's happening and who's who. And it's something that, like I said, it's not something that I didn't notice until I rewatched these episodes again because I haven't seen them for a little while. But the space scene is basically them having it's basically almost like a space battle shootout in a what would you call them? Would you call them boom tubes? I'd call them boom tubes from because that's what they call those type of things in DC. But basically, how they travel around in a Bebop universe is that you kind of have like these gateways, and they open up, and you can travel like inside these gateways. And what is it? Does it allow you to travel faster than light?
Yeah, there is there's a bit where Jet kind of explains a bit of the science behind them, but effectively they, as you said, they're for DC Comics fans, you'd call it a boom tube. But basically, it's like an astral gate. If you think of like Stargate, where Stargate kind of allows you to go from one side of the universe to another, and things like that. That's effectively what these astral gates are. They don't. Well, so far in the series, we haven't encountered one that takes you like right across the universe, but certainly for traveling distances is what they do. I mean, effectively, if you think of them, I guess they're like motorways if you're in the UK, or if you're in America listening to this, a highway. That's effectively what they are, but a lot quicker. So it takes your craft right through from one point to another point. So yeah, I guess that's the best way to describe it, really.
Basically, and so they basically end up, having like a bit of a battle. Oh well, basically, Spike goes into the gateway to follow Mother, and yet ended up just having this battle in there, and it's just them just it's as good as the space fight scenes in A New Hope. So you've got these ships that look like ships, and they are in space, but the way how they move around is almost like a dogfight. So you see them basically fight, shooting at each other in this gateway and things like that, and you basically get to see once again how good of a pilot that Spike is, and how much of it, like, he's just once. The thing about Spike, like Jason mentioned earlier in an episode, is that he's pretty much laid back when he's not doing when he's doing something that he's not interested in. The minute he gets that revitalization and he wakes up, you just realize that he's fucking good at, like, what he's good at. He's probably the best at. So he jumps behind the swordfish, and once he starts flying and starts firing that gun, you're just like, yeah, this guy's he's just the best. There's a reason why he's probably one of the best characters ever written, in my opinion. And you see it like in scenes like this. But anyway, basically, he ends up having this battle with Mother, and it's quite a wide array of like various weapons that are used, and quite smartly used as well. Stuff that you'd probably see in like Avengers. Let's say like if you see War Machine or Iron Man, where they might fire one rocket and then the rocket opens up and then lets out like other mini rockets and stuff like that. So it's pretty much well played out. But there's a bit where basically Spike ends up being in a bit of trouble, and he then has to, do the last thing that he thought he'd ask, is basically ask Faye to come and help him. And so she jumps in a red tail, and it's basically these three ships basically having a space battle inside this boom tube. Now the thing is, the way how the astral gate works is that if you're knocked outside of the actual gate itself while in motion, I think you get lost in between space and time.
Yeah, you do.
Something. Yeah, you do. Yeah, so basically at one point Spike's actually been damaged, and his wing is actually starting to clip the side of the astral gate, and Faye manages to come and save him and everything. And it's just a really, really good fight scene. Like I said, it's the closest thing you'll get to like a space World War II dogfight. But it's just, all I can say is that you just really need to watch it.
Yeah, so basically the terrorists release these missiles that are carrying the virus towards Ganymede, and because of the battle that ensues between Spike on the swordfish and Faye on the red tail, and the terrorists in their ship, they managed to lead them through the astral gate. And then, as Rich said, when you get hit out in the astral gate, you actually get trapped in reality. So Spike and Faye managed to just about make it out, but the Space Warriors get trapped in there. And then because they're trapped in kind of like, I guess, trapped in time and space almost, all of those kind of the laws of gravity and things like that's kind of cease to exist. So they're just kind of floating. And I love this scene so much. This scene's so great because everybody kind of flies forward. You get a shot inside of the Space Warrior ship, and everybody kind of flies forward in slow motion. And you see that as Mother is kind of flying forward in slow motion and flying towards the screen of the ship, you see that out of her pocket pops the little vial that Spike had slid in there while she was on the ship. And the way they do it is so clever because the vial comes out of her pocket and then you get a cut back, like a flashback cut back to that scene when she's leaving the ship, and that's where you see that Spike had very cleverly kind of put the vial in her pocket just as she left. So the vial comes spinning out and goes in slow-mo, and she kind of almost screams because she realizes what's about to happen as this vial hits the glass, and then the virus just spreads everywhere. And we don't see what happens, but it's pretty obvious that, you know, the virus is now going to infect the entire crew of Space Warriors. And, you know, the eco-terrorists are now going to be monkeys, basically. And I guess in a way, that's kind of what they would have wanted because, you know, because of their beliefs, that's probably the state they wanted to be in, but not at this point and not under those circumstances. But I thought it was just really clever the way they kind of edited that scene together at the end. So we get towards the end of the episode, and the episode ends in a really, really funny way. Basically, back on the Bebop, you know, Faye is now with Jet and Spike, and she's saying, you know, don't worry, guys. It's, you know, some you win some and you lose some. We didn't get the money, but you know, we'll get them next time. And she kind of walks off, and then like Jet and Spike kind of process what she's saying, and then Spike is like, wait, did I hear what I thought I heard? And Jet's just like, I don't even want to engage. But basically, Faye, basically, Faye has just told them, yeah, I'm part of the crew now. Like, that's effectively what she's saying here is, yeah, we'll get him next time, as in me, you, Spike, and Jet. You know, don't worry about it. Like, we got this. And it's like, hold on, yeah, you know, Spike is like, what are you talking about? Like, who asked you on board the ship? Who told you could stay on the ship? So she walks off, says she's going to go and have a shower. Spike is incredulous as to what's happened. Jet is like, I'm just staying out of this. I ain't got the energy. So Spike is like, I'm going to go give her a piece of my mind. And Spike and Jet is like, listen, like, I don't even know why you're bothering, fam, but off you go. And the last shot is kind of him lying down on the sofa with his head back. As you can hear in the background, these two raised voices shouting at each other. And then the screen goes to black just as you hear gunshots in the background. And it's like, raw, like, okay. That's Faye basically saying, listen, I'm done talking about this. I'm part of the crew now. There's nothing for you to say here. So, yeah, I thought that was a kind of clever ending. What did you make of the ending of the episode?
No, listen, the endings. Listen, the thing is, I mean, I can't remember what he says, but remember what it is that Spike's basically trying to moan to him. But the thing is, you said it to me last time. You actually remember the quote. Spike's going like, Jet, why is there a woman on the ship? Like, I didn't ask for women. I don't like women on the ship. And I think Jet says something like, he says something in particular, like
he says, I have no particular opinion to add or something like that.
Yeah.
It's something.
And then every time Spike says something that's like, listen, what's going on? And Jet just keeps on repeating himself, and that's the thing where it's like Spike's just, you don't really see Spike get ruffled unless it's like in a something maybe physical, or as we get into later episodes, you'll see what can get him riled up. But then this is the first time you're just like, you know what? I'm gonna go do something, and you see him get up. Usually when he sees Spike, this is where there's a bit of a role reversal, which is what makes it even more funny. Jet's the laid back one. Jet's just, like you said, he's just lying down in the sofa, hands behind his head, and he's just chilling. And for the first time in 4 episodes, Spike is the one that's a bit ruffled, and he gets up. I'm gonna go talk to her. And then, like I said, then he goes to say that thing, and then you hear the bang, and then you hear Jet going like, yeah, I thought I saw that coming, and then it cuts to black, and it's just that perfect piece of, you know, of just comedy. It reminds me somewhat of, like, you know, when you used to watch like episodes of Friends, if any of you guys used to watch Friends or any other funny, let's say like you know, comedy TV show, where it would show credits at the end, and while the credits are running at the end, there'd be that little joke that you have just before like the Warner Brothers sign comes up. That's what it reminds me of, where it's just like you know what, this is becoming like a little bit of a family, and they're kind of setting things up, and it's nice. So even though you've heard like a gunshot and stuff, you know that Spike isn't dead. And once again, you know, like I said, you've now got an extra member added to the crew of the Bebop. So, like I said at the beginning of this episode and the beginning of this actual podcast, it's a journey of people becoming friends and losing friends, and people becoming family members, and this is the first sign of like another member joining the crew, and it's just as you go as the episodes go on, like this one, I think the ending of this is what makes the show work for me. Like I said, it's still a filler episode, but it's the ending of the show where it's like, well, this is how Faye joins the crew. And you could just be like, yeah, Faye joined the crew because of XYZ. You actually wouldn't even go into specifics. You just need to know that this is the episode that cements Faye Valentine as a member of the Bebop, as a member of the member of the Bebop ship. And that's what I love about the ending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, man. That's a good point. Very much so. As Rich said, it's kind of the first kind of shoots of what's to become a very famous team. And seeing that play out in the way that it did was really, really cool. So there wasn't a lot of kind of trivia and things to look up on this episode, unfortunately, listeners. Yeah, it was one that I couldn't really dig up too much information, but I went to our trusty friend, Bebopopedia. So for those of you who are interested in finding out a bit more about Cowboy Bebop and the stories behind some of the episodes, I could definitely highly recommend that you visit bebopopedia.com. It's awesome. It's just such a great resource for anything Cowboy Bebop. So yeah, there was, as I said, there isn't really a lot of kind of background kind of ideas and things like that. One of the things they do mention though is handcuffs, and Faye being back in handcuffs again. As said, it's something that we see on numerous occasions. Whether or not you you can consider in 2018 whether that's necessarily a positive image or not. I'll leave that debate for you to have amongst yourselves, but that's something that happens a lot throughout the show. The planet Ganymede that they're on is actually a moon of Jupiter. And apparently, according to Bebopopedia, it will appear multiple times throughout the series. So we'll look out for some more mentions of that. It mentions something as well that we've already touched upon. I think we did in pretty much every episode. And that's obviously the concept of the missed bounty. And the fact that, as much as they try, they don't seem to be able to collect a bounty. And they certainly haven't done it in the 4 episodes that we've covered so far. And as said, this is a motif that kind of goes on. So I don't know whether that says they're not very good bounty hunters or not, but yeah, basically, I mean, if you're judging them on how much bounties they collect, the answer is not many. So yeah, they failed to collect the bounty in this episode. And a piece of trivia is that Ganymede, according to Bebopopedia, is the largest moon of Jupiter. And the largest natural satellite in the solar system. It's composed of silicate rock and water ice. And apparently evidence shows that the moon has a tenuous oxygen-based atmosphere and possible saltwater ocean beneath its icy crust. So there's a possibility that the real Ganymede may support some life of some description. Because usually there needs to be the presence of oxygen and water in order for that to happen. So who knows? Maybe there's someone on Jupiter listening to this right now, in which case we say to you, peace, Mr. Alien or Mrs. Alien or whoever it is. But yeah, that's it really for the trivia side of things. So as said, as we said at the beginning, this is kind of a filler-in episode in a way. And it's still quite entertaining on a certain level, and it is really funny at certain points. But there isn't really anything kind of hugely consequential that happens in this episode to kind of push the wider narrative forward as we've seen it so far. But that is about to change, because in our next session, we're going to be looking at session 5, Ballad of Fallen Angels. And if you're familiar with the episodes and you're familiar with Cowboy Bebop, you'll know that's a pretty key episode in the series so far, because it tells us a little bit more about Spike and about his background, and it confronts the crew of the Bebop with one of their most difficult opponents really throughout the whole series. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that one. So we're definitely going to be riding up on that one big time, man. So we'll let you know when session 5 is available for you to listen to. But in the meantime, Rich, is there anything you wanted to add about this one before we wrap it up?
Yeah, 2 things. Well, three things. If Luca was awake, he probably would have been able to tell us that about Ganymede and how it's the largest moon the largest moon of Jupiter,
Oh
because
yes, 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 yes,
he's
yes.
just a big fan of space.
Yeah,
Um,
listeners, if you're new, Richard's son Luca is an absolute whiz when it comes to the solar system. So yeah, we if it does come on again and Ganymede is mentioned again, we'll
yeah,
try and get some word from Luca to tell us a little bit about Ganymede and what it's about. But sorry, go on, man.
yeah. So there's that. I mean, I'm not sure if it's even trivia per se, or if it's just my geek brain going into overdrive. But you see the bit when the person who's negotiating with Mother, with the virus, the guy in the suit.
Mm,
There's a bunch of like computer screens behind him, and there's a couple of names that keep on popping up.
right.
And one name I saw was Thomas Wayne. So
Ah,
I'm
really?
not sure if that's like I said, this could be my geek brain going into overdrive. And
Mm,
another name I saw were two surnames that I saw were Smith and Robinson. And
mm,
Smith and Robinson were basically the surnames of like, well, basically, there used to be a 60s TV show audience or listeners. We're kind of showing our age here. Not say that we were around when the show first came out, but we were around when reruns were around. Called Lost in Space, which was like a science fiction version of
mm.
was it the Swiss Family Robinson?
Yeah.
Yeah. And basically the family were called the Robinsons, and he had a stowaway who would basically always try and mess about with them and try and and deceive them and like dob them in if he got the chance to, let's say, to save himself. And his name was Dr. Zachary Smith, and I'll always remember his name because he was one of the first shows that my father watched when he came to London from Ghana was basically Lost in Space, and he
Mm.
said that he just always used to find that character funny. So like I said, I'm not sure if it's my geek brain going into overdrive and me just seeing things, but that's one thing that I saw. And there's another bit where there seems to be like computer, like it's almost like a black screen of like the computer numbers and stuff going up, and it's a mixture of like numbers and letters. And for some unknown reason, I just kept on seeing the words Gattaca come up, Gattaca, 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 and I'm not even sure when the film Gattaca came out with Jude Law and
Oh, the one with
yeah,
Ethan Hawke and
yeah, Ethan Hawke and
Jude
Jude Law,
Law
yeah, and Uma
Uma
Thurman,
Thurman. Yeah.
yeah. So
Uh,
yes, so that pops up as
yeah.
well. Well, I think it pops up. I'll actually need to go back and rewatch that episode to see if that's what I
Mm,
see,
mm,
or if it's something that I wanted to see, or if I am actually just caught in a matrix. But I don't
mm.
know. I'll let you guys know next session. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And the last thing
Mm.
is when the credits are rolling, which is something which is quite interesting because we haven't actually touched upon this. At the end of each episode, just before the credits roll, it kind of gives you a breakdown of what's going to happen in the next episodes.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't happen in this one, does it?
No, it does.
No. Oh, does it?
Yeah, it does.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, yes. So
Yeah.
it does. But then when they roll in the credits at the end, where you actually see the credits and they're singing the actual song, and it shows pictures, the pictures are different, and it
Mm.
shows images of a younger Spike and the younger character called Vicious, who we're going to meet in the next episode, and a lady called Julia, who we're going to meet in the next episode, and it shows them in their younger heydays. Um, but like I said, I don't want to talk about too much about that because that's stuff that's going to be touched upon in the next session. But it is kind of like a forebearer of what's to come next. So yeah, I think I'll just leave it on that.
Mm. Mm. Yes, so as said, listeners, session 5 is going to be an exciting one. It really is. I mean, it's like it's one of my favorite episodes in the whole series. Definitely in my top 5. And yeah, it's just so dense and detailed. And it's very different in tone to this session that we've just covered. So if you like your anime a little bit more serious and gritty, then definitely go and check out session 5. We will be covering session 5, of course, as we do here. Session 5, for those of you that don't know, is called The Ballad of Fallen Angels. So you can look that name up. If you find Cowboy Bebop online, you should be able to find it still on Netflix, I believe. So if you've got a Netflix account, then yeah, just search for Cowboy Bebop and it should pop up on there. Or failing that, as said, I think somebody has put the whole series up on YouTube anyway. So you could probably find it on YouTube until Google catch on and pull it down. But yeah, you should be able to find it there. So go and check that out. It's definitely worth a watch. So we'll be back very, very soon with session 5. But we're going to draw a line under this one and call it a day. So before we head out, a couple of points. I just wanted to say a real big thank you to Rob Wade and to all the guys from emotionally14.com who help us out with promotion for this podcast and for our other podcast, Wulong Talks. If you haven't heard our other podcast, Wulong Talks, please go and have a listen, man, because it's fun. We love doing it. We talk about movies, we talk about comic books, popular culture, and things that are in the news right now. And we kind of just give you our take on it and our spin. So go and have a listen to that. You'll find that wherever you found this podcast, you'll probably find a Wulong Talks episode there. We've redesigned our SoundCloud page a little bit as well. With SoundCloud, you're able to put things into albums and playlists. So we've created a couple of playlists for you. So that will make it easier for you to listen to these things, including the Bebop Rewatch. So if you do have a SoundCloud account, you can head over to our SoundCloud page and listen to all of the Bebop Rewatch episodes back to back, so you can get one complete kind of experience with that. Also, we've got to say a big thank you as well to the Britpod Scene, which is a collective of UK podcasts, all independently produced, over 100 of them, and they cover so many different topics. I mean, they cover everything from movies to TV shows to relationships to bird watching to anatomy to murder, you name it. There's somebody on the Britpod Scene who does it. So make sure you go and check out the hashtag Britpod Scene as well. Again, you'll find some more details about that at the end of this podcast. But thanks for listening. I'm going to say goodbye and call it a day. So it's a goodbye from me. Rich, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And thanks a lot again for joining us. We really appreciate you having a listen to these, and we hope you're enjoying them. If there's anything you want us to cover, or if you want us to give you a shout out, please just let us know. As said, just listen to the end of this podcast and you'll find out how to get in touch with us. Otherwise, we'll see you next week for session 5. Take care. Peace. Thanks for listening to us. If you're down with Wulong Talks, show some love by following us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Wulong Talks. You can also find us online at www.wulongtalks.com or drop us an email at wulongtalkspodcast@gmail.com. We can also be found as part of the Britpod Scene Collective, and we're also officially E14 endorsed. Search for those hashtags to enjoy more content from us and from other great British podcasters.